moving furniture from one room to another. But that is not our strength. Our strength is our people. We have to reach out to our people. We need a demos. We are elected to represent the people, not some strange institution. And what are we going to do about reaching out to the 500 million people whose legislation is about 70% is made here? But they don't know anything about it. And we don't talk about the people in this parliament. In other parliaments, we talk about people, constituents. My constituent said this, my constituent did that. I had a letter from so-and-so. I need to address this and that. But here we come and talk about institutions. Thank you for inviting me to speak at the only debate about electing the president of a parliament that represents 500 million people. The organizers have done a great service to democracy and to the people of Europe. And on their behalf, I want to thank you for doing this. The Eurobarometer survey says people are concerned about social exclusion in Europe. Our parliament, however, is a multifaceted creation and the very best example of inclusivity and unity in diversity. How else can you explain that someone born in Sri Lanka, far away from Europe, is here today, nominated by many MEPs from different nationalities, standing to be the President of the European Parliament? We have created a unique political institution, which we should all be very proud of. But are we? We are not, because our internal shortcomings which I am determined to reform with your help through this campaign. I was the first to refuse to accept the cosy deal struck by the two largest political groups about the next presidency. If I had not challenged the system, with Diana kindly following suit, the next president would have been decided 2.5 years ago by two people in a back room who controlled the two big groups. The presidency would have been bartered away, demeaning us all, just like Putin and Medvedev do when they regularly demean the Russian people with their cynical plots. It would have been decided without your knowledge, without your consent, without any respect for your views, decided with the utmost contempt for your right to choose. By voting, we are defending our right to choose and our right to decide. How can we expect to extend our influence and promote democracy, human rights, good governance around the world when our own elites and leaders resort to stealth to do backroom deals, deals which negate our democracy and all our values? We must, once and for all, remove the presidency of the parliament from the network of patronage managed by political groups. The presidency belongs to 754 MEPs, not to the large political groups. The president should be independent of politics and be a true speaker of the parliament. Only an independent president can guarantee the independence of the parliament. I'm already becoming known as the kamikaze candidate. This is what I told my group leader. When the EU needs a new image, a new reset, a new raison d'etre, at a time of increasing intolerance and extremism elsewhere in the world. If elected, I will be a neutral speaker, not a partisan president and not a president who will vote. In a consensual parliament, it is a given, it is a must, that we have a neutral, non-partisan, non-voting speaker. So let me be clear about this. I will echo to you Speaker Lenthol's response to King Charles I in January 1642. May it please your majesty, I have neither eyes to see nor tongue to speak in this place, but as this house is pleased to direct me, whose servant I am here. If elected, I will suspend at once attendance at meetings of my political group and be totally neutral, totally non-partisan and a non-voting president, like the Speaker of the House of Commons has been for the last 800 years. My political group will be the 754 members of the European Parliament. So now, I issue a challenge to my colleague Martin Schulz. Martin, I know you are a great and proponent of freedom and democracy. I now ask you, because I respect you, to repudiate the deal, repudiate this undemocratic deal and stand on your merits. Repudiate this deal and be faithful to the values and your record as a parliamentarian. Repudiate and set the members free to vote any way they like. Renounce this and also say that you will be a neutral president that you will not be partisan and that you will represent all of us in this parliament. Thank you. We are totally within the European Union and its legal structures. Of course, we have different perceptions about how we should develop the European Union. Something constructed 50 or 60 years ago, can it meet the challenges of the 21st century with, as Martin said, China and India and economic challenges that are coming across? Even the United States is more competitive than us. Question the word blackmail, because every country, including Mr. Schulz's country, has a special comparative advantage. In the case of Germany, it is the huge motor car exports. In the case of France, it is agriculture. In the case of Britain, it is our financial services. Now, if Britain were to suddenly ask for a swingeing taxation on the export of motor cars out of Europe, naturally the Germans would scream and say, this is terribly unfair. In the same way that you protect the German car industry, and we don't complain about that, or the French protect their agriculture, and we don't complain about that, please don't complain when we are trying to protect several 100,000 European jobs. Yes, I support the one-seat campaign. We should decide, as a parliament, where we should sit. It's nobody else's business where we should sit. It's our business where we should sit. And we should then decide, if we decide to sit in one place, and there's a majority of the parliament colleagues who support that, then we should do that. Then we become a real, proper, mature parliament. Second question about ethnic minorities. Well, how to answer this? Elect me, there'll be lots more. Has Mr. Schulz signed the one-seat campaign letter? The question, is it correct in a situation where we have 26% of youth unemployment in Spain and people are losing jobs, that we should increase our budget? Now, are we connected if we increase our budget? Of course we are not. Reminds me of a story when Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson went out camping. And in the middle of the night, Watson was woken up by Holmes saying, Watson, wake up, what do you see? And Watson said, I see the constellation, I see the stars, I see the infinity of God's creation. And Holmes turned to Watson and said, Watson, you're an idiot. Someone has stolen our tent. And frequently people steal our tent. And we don't see it. We are all talking about all these stars and so on. This example is one of those. We are disconnecting with the people, the taxpayer of Europe, by doing what we are planning to do.
Is this the justification for the spending for the buildings budget?
Having come from the House of Commons to the European Parliament and have come from that exciting environment of debate, this was like watching paint dry. And I analyzed this. This is my manifesto. You will have it this week. It's quite lengthy and it tells you how we could increase the effectiveness of our communication program with our electorate. But have you seen the way our cameras, and I hope nobody's here from our audiovisual unit, are panning the speaker? If someone intervenes, the camera is still on you. Somebody's talking offside, and the camera doesn't move to that person, doesn't zoom up, doesn't zoom back, doesn't come back to you, doesn't see a reaction, doesn't look at other people's reactions. There's no commentary in the studio with an expert talking about it, or a member state minister coming and talking about something that is being talked about by a senior legislator putting through a report. There is no interaction. We have a lot of stuff that we need to do to connect our work to our people. We say we do 70% of the legislative work. They know it in the subconscious, but they haven't a clue. We are at the cusp of history. Change is happening all around us, especially around the world. And we need fresh ideas, fresh minds, not business as usual. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean that it can't be done tomorrow. This Parliament, this Union has to be reinvigorated and made to be competitive, productive, reactive, and able to solve the problems that we are going to face from Asia and Latin America and the new BRIC countries. Are we ready for these challenges? Are we going to get out of our recession? Are we going to have growth? Are our grandchildren going to have jobs? These are the issues that this Parliament should be dealing with. And in order to do that, we need, as I said earlier, a neutral speaker who represents everybody, not a political president. And I asked Mr. Schulz whether he would repudiate the deal and allow all our MEPs to vote as they wish. And I've asked Mr. Schulz whether he would be a political president who will challenge the centre-right leaders in Europe, or would he be a neutral president who will look after the members and the House and its procedures? I'm still waiting for an answer.